Welcome back. The United Nations Migration Agency, that's the International Organization for Immigration, that's the IMO, has advised potential migrants to be cautious of a syndicate that specializes in offering fake employment letters to work in the United Kingdom, that's the UK. Reports gathered stated that IMO urged them to seek IOM, I beg your pardon, urged them to seek out proper information before embarking on any migration. The IOM disclosed that over 260,000 Nigerians had approached it in 2023 seeking guidance on how to migrate through regular or approved routes and also undergoing pre-departure medical health assessments. According to the agency, no fewer than 1,000 Nigerians are currently stranded in the UK, having gotten visas based on the fake employment letters procured for them, only to get to the respective organizations in the UK and then be denied acceptance because the letters did not emanate from those organizations. Still with us is Mr. Lawal Ekudayo, who I believe my question will be going to right now. What does this report and how do you think this report paints Nigeria and Nigerians in the diaspora?
In fact, I'm surprised it's IOM that is saying all these things, where we have a Nigeria in diaspora ministry or whatever that's supposed to be monitoring all these things and be coming up with a strategy to prevent or give information, not the IOM. You get what I'm saying? Before it will get to them, will this Nigerian diaspora will have been able to come up with so many things, but we don't hear anything from them. We are hearing it from IOM that Nigeria specifically is being taken advantage of by these organizations to swindle the Nigerians that are already poor. I read that news. Up to $10,000, some of them spent to get across. If you convert that to Naira, it's something to do. You get it? But because they find the country hopeless. You get, that's why you see somebody spending $10,000 that is close to 10 million naira just to get out of this country. That means they have no hope in this country. It's a serious case. Now, these people, the syndicates are now taking advantage of Nigerians, particularly the poor Nigerians, to swindle them, you get it, and make a mess of this country. And Nigeria in diaspora, the organization, the Ministry of Nigeria in diaspora, I think is it ministry or agency?
It's an agency.
Agency. Nigeria in diaspora is not saying anything about this. They are not, to let him know that they feel unconcerned. In fact, with this news that is coming up, there's supposed to be a scrutiny of that agency, Nigerians, that there's supposed to be a shake-up of that agency, because it shows that agency, you get it, is not doing what it's supposed to do. How can Nigerian that is poor manage to get $10,000 to fly out, to get out of the country, just to get out, just to get rid of this country? It's serious.
Mr. Lawal, I'd like to have a follow-up to that. Do you think that Nigerians who can have access to over 10 million naira are in the poor, the poor people in the country?
See, I'm into all this agricultural business.
Okay.
You discover that when you start the business, you want to start the business, and you calculate, with this business, so I can do this, so with this small scale, this is the amount I can spend, give or take you 10%, 20%, 50% added on it to whatever comes up for the unforeseen issue.
Yeah.
You now discover that in the end, that money you are going to spend will increase over 300% of what you have budgeted. You now begin to look for money all over the place. You know why? Because the economy is not stable.
So you can't even make proper plan.
So you end up running at a loss, because we want to buy a feed, animal feed, today. There's a particular amount. You are coming next 2 weeks to buy more. They have increased it. They are next coming draw whatever. You see, that makes them to be hopeless. In those countries they are going, economy is stable. Before prices are increased by 2%, It will take many years. So you can plan a year for business and then you make profit. You get, so that is one of those things that is making these people feel, hopeless. They believe that, okay, if I can get to that area, maybe I travel to UK, I spend 10 million naira to travel to UK.
Yeah.
And when I get to UK and I'm doing this job, I'm doing that job, I'm doing this, I can make that money back in less than 6 months. This is one of those things. I can make that money back in less than a year. So by the time they gather funds here and there, with the hope that if I happen to get to that area in less than a year, I'll pay these people back. Don't worry, I'll pay you back your money in less than when I get there. I'll do. You get it? That's why they are running away. It's not because they see that money as not that it's something that is not big, but they don't see hope in staying in Nigeria.
But then we also have a lot of Nigerians that may not really be the ones to have that money. Most of them sell their properties, their lands and all of that just to be able to get this money to leave Nigeria. Now, this question is to Mr. Nick Aguli. Beyond these reports, 260,000 Nigerians, that should be worrisome. Reports from IOM. And don't you think that it's kind of important that there should be a partnership between the UK government and the Nigerian government to tighten its visa process, not just to have anybody who does visas and at the end of the day we have our citizens stranded in these countries? Don't you think that in order for this thing not to happen, there should be a partnership within the UK and the Nigerian government? Because, 260,000 Nigerians, isn't that supposed to be worrisome?
It is indeed worrisome. And I agree with you, because I actually thought the UK government has taken care of this, whereby whether you are coming into the UK as a student or as a worker, it is the school that sponsors you and it is the employer that sponsors you. So I actually thought there was a system, an integrated system, whereby the UK border agency gives certain system access to these schools and to these employers so that they can go in there and do the sponsorship on the system and then send the document to the applicant. To think that somebody can just say, oh, I am Barclays Bank, UK, and I give you a letter of employment, and then you take that letter of employment to the UK High Commission in Nigeria, and they actually, on the basis of that fake letter, issue you a letter. Issue you a visa to go to the UK, and then you actually arrive in the UK and you are accepted at the border. When you now go to Barclays Bank now says, oh no, this letter is not from us. I think the UK government has to take responsibility for this. This is a sham. This is shambolic. How can a government issue visa on account of a fake letter of employment? And that government is sitting down and not doing anything about it. So I think this is a matter that the UK government should feel ashamed about. And I actually want them to accept these people, because they have wasted their time. They've all the checkpoints that this fake letter should have been exposed. The UK government allowed it to go through. At this point, I will not be surprised if some people within the UK High Commission in Nigeria are involved in this scam, because it is almost impossible for you to present a letter of employment from an employer and the UK government will issue a visa on the backdrop of that letter without any confirmation, independent confirmation from that employer that they actually offered you that letter. Because there's what you call the work permit system. The work permit system is where an employer will sponsor you. But the UK government provides a system where they will go and generate that work permit for you. How was this done? You understand? So I actually advise the UK government that for these Nigerians, they must be allowed to remain in the UK, because it is the UK that caused their problem. It's the UK that failed to dictate that these letters were fake. And the UK cannot, at this point, after these people have spent all their time, their money and have said bye-bye to their families, that they will now be returned back to Nigeria. It will be the height of injustice.
Okay.
This should not be allowed to happen. But then, on the other side, let us just now look at this situation. These 260,000, almost about all of them have been educated using Nigeria's money. This budget we're talking about, the budget for education was used in educating these people. So after we educate them, we now allow them to carry their skills to the UK. So it's as good as we are subsidizing, even with our small budget, UK economy, because we are training people and sending it to them.
Okay.
And the only reason why these people are going is because we have built a country here now where nothing seems to work. Nothing is working. And the young people just give up and say, look, I'm living here, I'm going to Japa. And the area we now start looking inwards and building a nation where our young people will be happy to stay, the better for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nick. Now, I'm going to come straight to you, Mr. Okoro. Now, the UK government passed two policies. First is that foreign students who don't get a certain grade in their school exams will have to leave the country. Secondly, that migrant workers in healthcare will no longer come in with their families. Now, in context with what the IOM noted, do you think the UK government and the Nigerian government, of course, needs tightening their policies and, of course, most importantly, their relationship ties? Because this has to do with both countries. Mr. Okoro.
Yes, there is need for us for Nigeria and the UK to always reassess their relationship. There is a very big need for that, because I was wondering too why the UK High Commission would issue a visa based on an employment letter generated in the UK without actually verifying it. So it shows that there's a gap there. So that gap should be tightened. The Nigerian government and the UK government should work closely to tighten that, to tighten such lapses, because I think it is that kind of lapse that resulted to what we are experiencing currently. And if you talk about health workers and their policy about health workers, well, the UK government is an independent government. It's a sovereign nation. They have their policies, and they are certainly going to do what benefits them, what is beneficial to them. Each country has their policies and the most they do is to fashion out policies that protect their national interests in any way they can. But beyond that, I think migration is an issue that is as mankind. Historically, people go to places where they survive better, places where they survive more. What is happening in the UK is actually a tip of the iceberg. You know, if you look at Nigerians outside, a lot of Nigerians are stranded in almost all parts of the world. It is worse in Asia. If you go to Asia, if you go to Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, you know, their own visa and permit system is quite different from what happens in the West, in Europe. The UK can give you a residence permit or you become a citizen. In Asia, it doesn't happen that way. They give you like 5 years. And at the expiration of that 5 years, if you are unable to renew, you must have to leave. And if you don't leave, you get into what they call overstay punishment. For every day you spend extra without a valid permit, you are going to pay a certain amount of money before you leave. That is why when you go to Asia, you see a lot of our people, they want to come home, but they can't come because the overstay payment runs into hundreds of thousands of naira. It's very common in Asia. You know, so like I said, what is happening in the UK is a tip of the iceberg. If you go to Canada, a lot of people are stranded. I walk into UK and I ask my guys, guy, what's on? What's happening? When are you coming home? They say, oh, but wait, I won't come do. Because the person has sold the father's house, sold the father's land, use it to procure visa and go to UK and get stranded there. It happens in the UK. And you know, most of the people that survive, this street life is not easy. And if they catch you, guy, you don't enter Bidato. Permit me for my mix of language. But that is what happens. That is what happens. So what Nigerian government needs to do, and do it very fast, is to ensure that the brain drain that takes place here doesn't happen. I don't see the number. I've not seen thousands of Chinese come in here and get stranded because they come with their papers. I don't see Americans trying to jump back to Nigeria. When they come here, they come with their work permits. Why? Because they are comfortable in their homes. I have seen Americans who come here, work for like 4, 5, 6 months, and they're itching to go back to their home country. But it doesn't happen.
That brings me to this question, Mr. Okoro. What would you say is actually the obvious reasons why we have this Japa syndrome? Because we have a lot of our doctors, a lot of our lawyers, a lot of professionals leave Nigeria for the UK or other countries. And then we have our government saying that, okay, calling back former nurses and doctors that have retired to please come and start working again. And then we have this issue of low number of doctors in Nigeria. You want to go to the hospital and then you're trying to get a recommendation for a doctor, and then they're telling you that this doctor is no longer in Nigeria. What exactly should the government do about this? Because we have people selling off properties, we have people selling off their lands and cars just to leave Nigeria, taking out the money in Nigeria to go and put into another economy in another country. So let's also have your concluding thoughts while you answer my question, Mr. Okoro.
It is very good. It is very simple. Talent goes to where it is appropriately. Talent goes to where it is rewarded appropriately. That is why you see Nigerian doctors, nurses, medical professionals, engineers, computer leave Nigeria in their droves, because if they stay here, or their business is not making headway. So what do they places where they are very well paid? Our economy doesn't also help the situation, because you can imagine sending $1,000 and you have $1 million in your pocket. That is what happens. So people go to where they are appropriately rewarded. If we're able to reverse the situation, sure, a lot of Nigerians, and when I speak to some of my professionals there and they say, guy, when are you coming back? He said, well, if you people make the environment conducive, I'll come back. So my the Nigerian government should build the economy. Everything centers on the economy. Everything centers on the economy. If you have a buoyant economy, if you have an economy that is thriving, people are earning, people's income soar from day to day, trust me, Australians will come back. You know why Australians don't come here? Do you know why Singaporeans don't come here? Do you know why Americans don't come here? Simply because they are better in their home country. If we are better here, if we are better off here, we won't go elsewhere.
All right, Mr. Nick, please, let's have your concluding thoughts.
Yeah, so my concluding thoughts are that the UK government must take responsibility for this. I expect the Nigerian government to formally engage the UK government in a diplomatic talks on why this thing has come to be, because these are Nigerians who are now homeless in the UK with no job and nothing. So this is a matter that should be elevated to the highest levels of diplomacy in Nigeria. And also, of course, that as a country, like my co-panelist Chukuma said, Nigerians are looking for very basic things. We just want light to be constant, electricity to be there, security to be there, water to be there, education and healthcare. These are the only things that Nigerians need. And they will remain here in this country, because as we speak now, if you go to Europe where they are, the cold is so bitter, you can't even come out. So why would you leave this kind of fine, warm weather and go and be struggling and suffering in the cold? Only because these basic things are not there. The government should make provision for these basic things.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Nick Agule, Chartered Accountant and a Public Affairs Analyst, and also Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, who is a Public Affairs Analyst as well. Thank you so much for your robust analysis. Moving on to Mr. Lawal, what are your concluding thoughts?
See, my concluding thought is that for us to develop the economy of this country, it is in the hands of majorly the National Assembly. Make a law, you get it, in such a way that the resources of this country will be generated will be in the hands of the local area and the state, and they only give to the federal. So that when we do that, there's somebody who is in one local area doesn't need to go to another state, because that local area supplies everything he needs and is living a normal life. So it generates his money, paid his tax, and everything is fine. Not that the government takes whatever is in that area, take it to the central and give it to another area that is not generating anything. That is one of the reasons why the people are running away. So if there is a restructure in that constitution in which the local government, you get it, are empowered, they are allowed to control their resources, and they are allowed to have their policing, and the state is allowed to control its resources and allowed to have its own policing, then people will be able to stay in their states, in their local area. They don't need to run away. The farms will be functioning, the other areas will be functioning. You get it? That is what I have. We'll build the economy in this way. When we build it, in fact, we will not be running away. Everybody will be able to enjoy wherever he is and feel comfortable.
At least to also be able to eat our local dishes here in Nigeria, not having to always transport them overseas.
In fact, all this pressure on importation will drop. You know why? Because you produce what you have in your local area, you sell the excess to another area. So our food, will be coming from our local area. You get it? People will be able to stay there. If you are farming in your local area, or you are doing your maybe your mechanic work, or maybe your carpentry work in your area, and the business is going fine, why do you need to leave that area to go to another area? Unless if you want to go on vacation, you only go on vacation, come back to that area because that place is conducive for you. So let's have the resource control and the policing of each local government and each state. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Lawal Ekundayo, an educationist, a farmer, and a public affairs analyst. And that's the size of the show for this morning. Up next is business on VOPT this morning, entertainment and sports. Stay with us.